The good news is, now that logic games are no longer on the LSAT, there's going to be less material for you to study. Today, I'm going to share with you the LSAT prep strategy I personally used to increase my LSAT score 23 points from a 152 to a 175 on LSAT test day itself. Now, I should clarify that I took the LSAT almost 20 years ago now. Logic games were on the LSAT, and some of my LSAT improvement did come from the logic games section. But logic games is actually the easiest section to improve and master, and so improving on logical reasoning took quite a bit more work. Now that logical reasoning is 2/3 of the LSAT, I'm going to focus on logical reasoning for this video because any gains you make in your understanding of logical reasoning will be doubled across the two sections. Now, there are roughly 15 different types of logical reasoning questions on the LSAT, and so you are going to want to familiarize yourself with those 15 different types, the proper perspective and strategies from which to improve and approach each of these LSAT question types. And this is what most LSAT prep companies focus on, is a question-first approach, a question-centric approach. However, I personally found that my scores plateaued when I only focused on LSAT question types. A lot more of my breakthroughs on logical reasoning came from focusing on the argument itself, understanding the structure of a logical reasoning stimulus, how LSAT designs the arguments, what's the evidence, what's the conclusion, what is the conditional logic, if any, what do you do when LSAT is not including indicator words for necessary and sufficient conditions or for evidence and conclusion. And so what later became the Socratic review method grew out of my LSAT prep journey, where I discovered that in order to break past the 160 mark and break past 165 and ultimately get my practice test scores into the mid to high 170s, I had to understand the argument from the test maker's perspective. My improvements ultimately came from when I looked systematically at the argument, the question stem, and the answer choices. For every single question I got wrong and every single question I had difficulty with, I had to look at what is giving me trouble about this question, what is leading me astray. Is it a confusing argument? Is it an unfamiliar question stem wording? Or is it in the answer choices, a tempting wrong answer, an unappealing right answer? What could I do differently going forward to avoid making the same mistake again? The Socratic review method is a formula. It's a framework to guide you through your LSAT review process, because it's not enough to build a strong foundation in the question types. It's not enough to drill LSAT questions by type, and it's also not enough to take full-length timed practice tests. In fact, if you do nothing but drill LSAT questions, or you do nothing but take test after test, you are churning and burning through valuable practice material. And LSAC has significantly reduced the number of practice tests available to you since they have removed the logic games section. They reorganized all the exams. Used to be 94 numbered exams. Now there are 58 numbered exams, 101 through 158 in the new LSAT format, and you will get through them faster than you think. And every question that you get wrong or have difficulty with is an opportunity to learn something new, but only if you review your mistakes in depth using a framework like the Socratic review method. This is the cornerstone of my LSAT prep courses. This is the cornerstone of our one-on-one LSAT coaching programs over at LSAT Unplugged. And by the way, if you're interested in finding out more, you can check out the links below this video to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. No matter what you do going forward, however, you want to make sure that you get the review process out of your head. It's not enough to look at the answer key and say, oh, I get it now. How could I have been so dumb? It's not enough to Google the LSAT question for some explanation on some forum, because you're not getting any experts to personally look at how you are approaching the problems, because there are tricks and traps on the LSAT that you're good on, that you're not falling for, and there are others that you are personally uniquely prone to falling for. And until you learn what those tricks and traps are, you can't help but avoid making the same mistakes again, because the LSAT test makers repeat themselves again and again and again. They are quite lazy, in fact, because they keep taking old LSAT questions, changing the topic, and passing it off as a new LSAT question. But they're right to do it because test takers keep falling for these mistakes, because LSAT is masterful at exploiting our innate classic logical fallacies, our patterns in our logical thinking. And so the flawed patterns in how we tend to evaluate methods of reasoning. And so the LSAT is first and foremost a test of pattern recognition. Now more than ever, that logic games are no longer on the test. It is less about making inferences and a whole lot more about recognizing common methods of reasoning and common LSAT fallacies. Anyway, folks, that's all for now. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.